In this week's episode, I'll talk about some of the chats I had with my son in the hot tub about relationship and everything around it. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Divorced Dad Diaries, and I'm your host, Stéphane Jutras. Monday is Thanksgiving here in Canada. So this is actually Thanksgiving weekend. So we have a long weekend. And I'll take this opportunity to wish to all my Canadian listeners and friends a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And hopefully you're able to spend some time with the people you love, some friends, family, or even yourself. I mean, why not? So hopefully you make it a great weekend. I think it's always a great time. It's not as popular as in the US over here. And I don't think it has the same impact, but it's always a good opportunity to kind of sit down and think about what you're grateful for. And sometimes it's not that easy because you might have the feeling that everything around you is crazy, going crazy, and your life is going crazy and just really be depressed. But sometimes you have to kind of sit down and think about a bit more the positive and the things you're grateful for. And hopefully you have a lot of things like that. I know for me, this weekend, it will be a quiet weekend, but I decided to record a podcast now. So it gives me a bit more time. So I thought, that would be a great opportunity. And as you probably figure out in the initial opening of the podcast, it's the Hot Tub Confessions. A couple of days ago, we decided to go, myself and my kids, to go to a restaurant just to kind of celebrate a bit Thanksgiving. So that was nice. I mean, it's not often that we're able to meet all together. My kids are getting older and, you know, what's happening. My daughter has a job. She has a boyfriend as well. And my son just had a girlfriend recently. So all this put together in school, obviously, for my son makes it a bit hard to actually have some time, just three of us to, just, spend some quality time and have some chats and have some fun. So it was quite nice. We went out for dinner. We had a nice little chat over dinner. Good food, good laughs, and that was a great Thanksgiving dinner. Well, would I qualify that as Thanksgiving dinner, even though we did it on a Saturday night? Maybe. So, but it was great nonetheless. Again, it's not what I want to talk about this week on my podcast. It's a bit more about the discussion I had. Was it actually yesterday? So I was here and just watching some TV with my son. And at one point, I said, you know what? I haven't been in the hot tub for a while. We have a terrace here on the building, and there's hot tubs on the roof. So I told him, why not? Do you feel like going up and, just enjoy the hot tub a little bit? So actually, it was nice. He put his video games on the side and actually agreed to go up. So I was a bit surprised, but no. Seriously, he was pretty happy to go there. He hasn't been as well quite often. So it was a nice thing. So we went up. And as, Canadian, it was yesterday when it went up was maybe 6 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius. So I don't know. In Fahrenheit, it's probably, let's say 40 maybe max. So we were up there with our sandals and a little robe and a bathing suit. So we went out and it was a bit windy. So we just kind of took off the top of the hot tub and just kind of jumped in the water. It was pretty cold and a bit painful, but it was really nice once you were in the water and you have a beautiful view of the city and everything else. So that was kind of enjoyable. That's one thing I'm really grateful for is my kids wanting to spend time with me. And sometimes you take that for granted and sometimes you wish they would spend more time with you. But I'm lucky enough that they do. And I know it's just a matter of time before they have their own life and they don't want to spend time with dad. They rather go at their girlfriends or boyfriends or family, and eventually they'll have a family and everything else. So that's why, I make it a point to kind of enjoy those moments, which always great. So it was nice being in the hot tub, so getting warmer, and we started talking about a bunch of different things. Obviously one of the topic that came up was basically girls and relationship. And just because I'm saying that, because again, like I mentioned, he just recently had a girlfriend. And that's something new for him. And we started just chatting a little bit about her. She's actually really nice. I was lucky enough to have met her and her mother at some kind of, I wouldn't say an event, but it was this rib fest that happened maybe a month and a half ago. So they joined there. We sat at the table and had a good chance to talk. And that was really nice. I mean, she's a really nice girl, and her mom as well, really nice. But at the same time, she's actually very, very shy. And I think a little bit of an introvert. And maybe my son would say maybe a bit more of an introvert. And funny enough, my son is not this outgoing guy. And he's a bit like me. I think he's pretty quiet. But once he's comfortable, he knows the people, he will go all in and just, be very comfortable and talk. So now what's happening is, I guess his girlfriend is a bit more quiet, at least from the outside. But they seem to be very happy, spend a lot of time together. So that was really, really great. So we're in the hot tub and just just asking how it was going. And, so he basically was telling me that it was going great. But again, being the first kind of relationship and first girlfriend, it's never easy and you never know what to expect. And a lot of things don't make sense sometimes. And we were kind of discussing, and not that he was asking for tips, but I think he was interested to know my opinion about relationships. So I can't say that I'm the expert in there. Definitely not. I mean, I haven't really had many girlfriends or relationships before I got married, even when I was younger. But at the same time, I guess a good experience to have gone through being married and also divorced. So you kind of gather along some tips and some things to do and not to do. So so we started talking about that. And, it kind of made me think, and I stopped for a second. It's like, really, I had to ask myself what really was the most important in a relationship. And I'm sure you all read a lot of things about that. And, a lot of the same things come up. Number one is communication. And in my opinion, I mean, even if it's very, how can I say, it's something that comes up all the time, definitely communication is number one. And I think without that, the relationship, marriage, everything is doomed. I mean, if you don't talk, it won't work. And that's one thing that I realize, and that's one thing people often realize being in a relationship, even in a marriage. And even, when you decide to go through divorce, the first thing you notice is communication went down to zero. And when I say communication, is not just, fighting and just arguing, which is also a form of communication, is also good too. People and couples that don't argue, definitely something there. I don't think there's anybody perfect that just agrees on everything and, that nothing bothers them. So I think, some arguments definitely are a healthy thing. But at the same time, you need that communication to be there. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that you have to make sure is there when you're in a relationship. And that's what I was telling him, if there's things that bother you or if things you want to talk about, it's not always easy. But if you put it out there, at least the other person knows. And I think the biggest issue when you look at relationships, and even on my side, and I'm sure like if talking to a lot of people, is communication is kind of almost non-existent, or sometimes communication is there, but it's just one way. So what happens is, people don't talk and communicate, and they keep it inside them, and it grows. And as I mentioned in many other of my episodes, it just grows, and at one point it explodes, and it's too late. I mean, when you've been keeping something for years and you've been resentful more and more and more, it's like the glass of water, I mean, if you take care of it when it's basically almost empty, it's great. But when it's just borderline and it overflows, it's a bit too late. I mean, you can't really go back. So that's why I think a lot of issues kind of come out at the end, and people say that they can't fix it. So that's definitely a big issue. The other things I think that's important, and again, I talked about it before too, and I was mentioning to him, is things in common. I mean, it's really fun when you meet someone different than someone that's like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to do this and that person is so exciting, and we can go parachuting and doing all those extreme things, and I will never do that in my life, and that's great. But at the same time, after a little while, you need things in common, things that you can do together, things that you both like. So if you don't have any of those, it's also very, very difficult to have, I guess, a healthy relationship, or even have a relationship, because what do, right? I mean, it becomes harder and harder. And again, the more time you spend with that person and the more time you're in that relationship, it becomes kind of harder to kind of connect if you have nothing in common that connects you. So definitely that's something I learned. And I mentioned it before. You're always excited at the beginning of new things and basically moving the line and doing a lot of fun stuff. But it's nice to have things. And I don't think it's only nice. I think it's you need to have things that you can connect over, things that you both like. And if not, that's an issue. So definitely. And again, at the beginning, it might last, but after a while, it will come up and will explode for sure. So after that, communication, things in common, I was thinking, what would be another important point that I would say? I think wanting to spend time together. I mean, that's another hint too. I mean, if you can have a girlfriend or a wife, but if you kind of really dream about the time that they're away or not there, or you don't want to spend time with them, actual physical time, when I say time is physical time and doing things together, well, there's an issue there. You know, if you're in a good relationship and a healthy relationship and a happy relationship, you have to want to spend time with that person. You have to want to see her or him. Just you want to be with them all the time. Maybe not all the time. I mean, that would be another discussion. Maybe not all the time, but you want to spend time with them, and as much as you can and as much as you want as well. So that's another important thing. Again, I was kind of thinking about other things. I mean, there's a lot of different things that come up. Obviously, respect. You know, you have to respect the other person, and the other person has to respect you. And I talked about, not being taken for granted or taking the other one for granted as well. You know, it's a two-way street, and what I'm saying is really applies both ways. I would go back again, the main one, communication. I mean, all that I've talked about, even going through the marriage and everything, I think when the communication is shut down by either party or both, or, you don't talk about it. And when I say talk as well, is kind of having a healthy talk, a discussion both ways. I was saying that and we're discussing together, and I could see, my son found that pretty interesting, and he agreed. But I realized that it's pretty much doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter what type of relationship you are. If it's, meeting someone for the first time, if it's dating someone, if it's when you're married with someone or anything, even when you start the divorce. I mean, we talk about a lot of the divorces going bad. I mean, the key thing is communication. In my opinion, in my experience, is when I talk to couples that have successful divorce and, everything goes well, the key thing is communication. They talk to each other, they listen to each other, and they work together. If you talk to people who had really bad divorce or separation, I mean, the main issue is the communication. One side doesn't want to talk, one side doesn't want to listen. And yes, there's a greediness and everything else. But again, if you communicate with the other person usually, and you listen to the other person as well, it's definitely a big step towards having a successful relationship. And I would push that even to having a successful divorce at that point. Again, a lot easier said than done. I think that's really the key thing in there. And, we talk about, it's funny, maybe some people will mention that. It's like, what about love? Like, what about love? Is that something important? Yes, of course, you have to love, in my opinion, you have to love the other person. And that's a key ingredient for a relationship. I mean, again, depending what type of relationship you're into, but you need to love the other person, of course. But sadly, I don't think love is enough. You can love the other person can love you. But again, if you don't talk, if you don't respect each other, and if there's no communication in there, I don't think you can survive only on love, sadly. That's not like in the movies, I know. So that said, and when I was discussing that and having a chat with my son on that, we talk about communication, and yes, I'm talking and we're talking and everything else is good. But I think also one thing that's kind of, I guess a lot of people make, I would say mistakes, but a lot of people do during the relationships is assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions that are made without even checking with the other person. And also that can cause a lot of conflicts. I mean, if there's something you don't like or something you want to do or something you're not, you don't agree upon, you can't assume that the other person thinks that way, that the other person is that way. Just talk and just ask the question. It might not be easy and might not be the answer you want to hear, but at least there won't be any assumptions and you won't get mad or you won't start like hating the other person because it's all based on assumptions. That was a bit of the discussion that we talk about. And it was pretty casual and really enjoyed my time doing that. I mean, I have to say, and I know it's not everybody that's that lucky. And I'll say that I am lucky. Is it really luck or not? I can say that it's not everybody that has that. But I was really happy that he kind of opened up and we could talk about all those stuff. So it was really good. And all I can say is I told him the same thing. I wish him luck. And he really deserves to find this amazing person. He's a great person, he's a great son, and a great young man as well. So definitely deserves that. And I told him I'm always there and to try to help, or if anything is needed, or sometimes just there to listen. You're probably asking why I wanted to share that with you all there. And again, I mentioned a bit before, but I think sometimes, we have to take some of those opportunities that come up to spend time with our kids. And I think, we always have that excuse that they play video game, they watch TV and things like that. But I think it's good to kind of find those moments, and just, even if it's half an hour a week, even what I do often, I go for breakfast. It's been something that I've been doing with my kids since they're babies. I go for breakfast on a Saturday or Sunday, and sometimes just an hour, but it's an hour that we're together and we can actually talk and share, and things come up there. And sometimes, like, as much as you talk about communication, also the kids see you're busy and you're concerned about a bunch of stuff and they don't want to bother you. And sometimes they might be even a bit shy to ask you questions or to talk about certain topics. So that's a great opportunity if you spend time with them and you kind of open up that way. It's a great opportunity for them to share back, and they kind of have the door open so they can share or ask questions or anything on that front. And also, sometimes it's just, like I said, I know sometimes you might see your kids struggling or something's happening and you ask them and they don't want to share. And, it happened to me too with my kids as well. Sometimes they say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to share. I don't want to talk about it. So it's okay. And I think the thing I do is just to tell them, listen, whenever you're ready to share, I'm there. And I tell them as well, I said, if you just need someone to listen, because sometimes that's all you need, right? Sometimes you don't want to hear it. You don't want to have any feedback. Sometimes you just want to get it off your chest and you want someone just to sit there and listen. That applies for your girlfriend, wife, ex-wife, everybody. So I think it's a good thing to let your kids know as well, to tell them, listen, if you want to talk about it, I'll sit here, I'll be quiet, I won't say a word, I'll just listen to you. So if that's what you need, I'm here for you. And I did that a couple of times before, and I realized that they really appreciated that. At first, kind of didn't want to talk about it, but they will try you out, and he really was happy that I reached out and that he could talk to me about it. And again, I just sat down and just sat there and listened to him, and that's it. So it's not something easy, because sometimes I guess things that he might ask you or come up with, you might be very tempted to answer back. But again, I think it's important to listen, and there's always a chance later on to talk, and they'll come back to you and, they'll want to do more. If they see that you're a good listener, they'll want to do more. So once you do that, I think that's one big step, and that's something important for them sometimes, just to know that you're there, just to listen. And also, they realize after that you're there because you care, right? And you're basically there whenever they want you or they need you. And again, do you give them the options, and you can just be there as a listener. So bottom line, that was kind of the reason why I wanted to talk a bit about it on this episode. And like I said, it was a discussion in the hot tub with my son, which was interesting. And like I mentioned before, can be applied to any relationship. And again, all that I'm saying too is you can try to do all this and it still doesn't work. But at least, like I said, you try and learn. And I think that's what's important, right? It's kind of moving forward. It's just showing your kids or the other person that you're there no matter what. And you're always available. So that was our chat. And after we came out of the hot tub, and it was even colder than when we got in because we were wet at that point. So the conversation was great, but I guess the ending was quite painful, trying to put the top back on the hot tub in a little robe when it's almost like frozen point and almost 32 degrees. So that was interesting, but nonetheless, it was a way well worth it. And it was really a fun evening on that. And like I said, on that Thanksgiving day, I'm really grateful that I could have those discussions, and hopefully you do too. And hopefully, even if it's not happening now, hopefully you'll work towards it. And one day, you might have those type of discussions. But until then, just listen. So that's it for this week for the Divorced Dad Diaries. As always, if you have any questions or comments about the episode or any other episode, or any question in general, please feel free to reach me at TheDivorcedDadDiaries@gmail.com, and also on my website on www.TheDivorcedDadDiaries.com. And you can, again, reach me on Instagram as well, on Facebook, Twitter. So don't hesitate. I'm all there. So if you have any questions, or you can email me or send me a message over there, a DM or anything, and I'll be answering all of them. And please, if you have a chance to subscribe to the podcast, that would be great. If you subscribe, you'll know right away whenever a new episode is coming up. And I'm really working hard to have them more frequently. So if you have that little check mark there, you can be notified when there's a new one, and it will be downloaded automatically. So that would be great. And that said, I hope you have a great week, and stay safe, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.